nothing I can do but stay out of sight. With every passing my stomach feeling easy. She says my name and my thoughts get crazy. There's nothing I want more than this tonight. Lips the color of poison dot frog. Eyes the blue of my deepest fantasies. Such craving keeps getting away. Sweet like antifreeze. She's got this voice that moves down from the hill, and it descends to 95 and kills. But you know I die for a word from those lips. There is no alignment for other agendas, and we always decided someone to defend us. But it all fades later, she wiggles those hips. Lips the color of...
Well, hi there, everybody. It's me, Jim. I've got my good buddy Dongo on the call today. Dongo, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people. Am I a good monkey?
You're a wonderful monkey. You might be the best darn monkey ever.
Ah, yes.
All right.
I am a great ape. That's true.
There is no denying. I can. I see that everything looks like it's working. So I see my voice making noise, your voice making noise.
Yeah. So
both on the screen. So I think we're good.
Yeah. For a minute, it's actually 7:03 now.
Well, yeah, we're a bit late. That's probably my fault, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, life goes on.
Yeah.
Worse
friend,
things have happened to better people.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
How have you been, my friend?
It's been a weird year. I'll tell you that for free. I'm sure everyone says that.
Yes, that much I can completely and wholeheartedly agree with. I have been enjoying all of the craziness of 2021 so far. Well, and 2020. Like let's not forget how rad that was.
2021 was a weird year for me, mostly because of work-related and income-related nonsense.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to go into all my personal details and secrets because I'm sure George W. Bush is watching and he might nuke my house.
He's a cagey one, that George W. Bush. He'll do that.
You've got to watch out for them Texans.
Yeah. Oh.
We sent them a pile of snow. They don't like us anymore. We sent them a pile of snow.
To be fair, I don't feel like we sent them snow. I feel like snow was sent. We were a part of the equation, but we didn't make the snow.
I like to think that we shared our existence with them, like they share their existence with us all the time. Exactly. Yeah, it's funny. I like whenever I talk about like politics stuff or whatever on the interweb, one of the things I have to constantly remember is that I will say our government and refer to the American government. And then I'll say our Constitution and refer to the American Constitution. And then I'll say our Constitution and refer to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And like there's just no winning. Can't win for losing.
Which is kind of the story of my life. Yeah.
I kind of get that stuff all curly-tailed up too.
Yep. It's normal.
And I don't care. If it's important to you, well, so what?
Yeah. Sorry about your luck.
I don't. Sad that you don't care about me anymore because I'm gone.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like we're joking, but like that's kind of how I am. Like, and I've learned that about myself more the last little while. Like I don't mind telling somebody that I don't need you in my life anymore. Which.
Do you remember this is a bunch of years ago, you introduced me to some slob. I have no idea who he was because I don't care. That's sort of a sad story. But you said, something along, hello, Dongo, this is my good buddy, Quasimodo. And I said, Jerry. I don't need any more friends. No,
I do remember that. And then you just were like, I don't need any friends. Walked away.
Yeah. It's a legendary thing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So I have a question for you, young fella. What books are you reading lately?
Honestly, I'm trying to make my way through this horribly complicated cybersecurity book that I'm wanting to get my certification in that. But I also bought a couple of books by my friends Aaron Potterplow and Mr. Plow. Do you remember Mr. Plow from playing shows?
Mr. Plow.
Yeah, so Yeah, so his wife is a author of a few books, and one of the books is co-authored with him, and it's about his life basically being a punk rocker who, did all the
Writes
cool.
about donkey sex.
Yeah, writes about dog. Well, actually, it's more. If I haven't gotten terribly far into it, but my understanding is it's more about his discovery of punk rock while working in a. I believe he was working in a mortuary at the time.
That's a step in one direction or another.
Yes, that's the.
Aren't people's lives astonishing?
Oh, absolutely.
I just love that shit.
I had my friend Shellen on, a couple weeks ago, and she works in the death care industry, and we had a really cool chat. And I was just like, "This is so weird. I did not. I had no idea that she worked in the death care industry, and I didn't know what that would mean. Like, it was just an interesting experience. Really cool conversation.
I've heard of the death care industry before, and I know a little bit about hacking away at dead people because of the education I took.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's completely missed by most people in our society. We hide that stuff under the carpet, and I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
We raise children to not think about death, and to not experience death, and to not know what to do when somebody dies, or not know what to do or how to deal with, because your parents are going to go before you, most likely.
Yeah.
So where do you learn how to do that? Well, you don't get it from your family, you don't get it from your school. So all you do is cut a big check to a company, and they take you to the cleaners. So yeah, that's a weird.
Yeah. So you touched on school. This is one of the things I think I love most about you is you're an engineer. You had gone back to school to be an engineer after being a draftsman, and that career kind of, the world of drafting.
It was not enjoyable.
Yeah. So you went back to school and got your engineering, and then, clearly still a young bloke. And you were like, you know what I want? I want a doctorate in paleoanthropology. Is that the correct term, paleoanthropology, for what you're...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, and like, if you could choose two careers that were more diametrically opposed, you could choose. It would literally be like basket weaving.
Yeah.
So. Well,
I do weird things. Like the engineering universe is one kind of mind. The science universe is another kind of mind. The music universe is a third kind of mind. And I really enjoy the multiplex of experience. I do things, don't tell anyone, it's a big secret. I do things for the experience. For example, it's maybe not a good example, but how many people do you know have stolen a car?
I think I know one.
How many people do you know who have been shot? I've had a lot of weird experiences, and I've done them mostly just for the experience of it. My attitude is you only come by this way once. Mm-hmm. So play the game. Play the game.
And it's interesting that you refer to getting shot and stealing cars as playing the game, because it's not a game I've played, but I totally get that.
Well, yeah. Now, when somebody goes, I got caught stealing a car, I can say, well, you did it wrong. I know why. And this, it's most of the people that we know that I'm slightly friends with, I'd say. I don't know what the thing is, like Giselle and Sonia and whoever knows, like this Mikey bastard. There's a long list of people. And I'm not good with names, but I'm super good with faces. So I see people at shows and see people in the street, and they know me as the guy who does all that weird shit. A really good example for me is, you probably are aware, but maybe the folks at home aren't. I own a little piece of property that I play on.
Swalwell.
Swillhole.
Swillhole.
Yes.
The loveliest sack of crap this side of the Mason-Dixon line.
You know how every little town has, or not every little town, because some of them are too busy drinking and fucking, but the world's largest frying pan, or we've got the biggest chair, or our moose has blue balls, or whatever, right? Like, so what I want to do, and I'm going to probably do it this summer, is the world's tallest stack of broken toilets.
That would put, I would say that would put Swalwell on a map. Not the map.
Something
a map.
Happen.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
It's not like there isn't enough broken toilets around. So, at any rate, the story, back to the story. This little piece of property is a bit of a dump, and I like it that way because then I can be the redneck pig that I really am. The veneer of civilization is mighty thin on this one.
I'm familiar with your work.
And so it's a junky place, and somebody dropped off one of those upright pianos. You can get them for free on Kijiji because they're junk, right?
Yes.
And so somebody dropped off a piano. What do you do with a piano?
Smash it.
Well, some people would just take it to the dump and throw it in the dump, right?
Yes.
Well, I know a few things because I'm an engineer. There's an awful lot of brass in a piano, and brass has value, but getting it out of the piano requires effort, and I'm lazy. So I don't do the effort. The way that I extracted the brass out of the piano was to put it in the middle of Railroad Avenue on Swalwell, set it on fire with 2 gallons of rotten gasoline, and then nice. I drove through it at about 100 kilometers an hour in the El Crapino. And I got a video of this. It made the most amazing noise. It went boom, right, and this thing is rolling down the street. There's a huge fireball, and I singed one of my eyebrows off.
Excellent. I see it grew back.
And they grew back. I'm a mammal. They do that.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah. And so I don't think the same way as most people. And I think that's probably pretty obvious to any of my friends and relatives.
It is not lost on me, that's for sure. And thank fuck, because I love the shit out of you, and I love the weird way you interact with the world. It actually makes me feel like the world makes a lot more sense.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear that, and a bit sad because I don't know what that means.
It means that, we all got raised in this sort of weird awkward way where, like, all of us freaks were freaks, and we had to hide and not be freaky and stuff. And I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are pleased as punch that someone as weird as me is my age and still doing the dumb shit I'm doing. And I'm pleased as punch that someone like you, at your many advanced years, is still doing the shit you're doing.
Unbelievable. 63 I am. I can't believe that. It's been a weird trip. I really had a lot of fun. And I think that's what we're here for.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of point. I like the way that you phrase it. You say, what is it? There's stuff that. I can't even think of it. It's like there's stuff that sucks, but I'm confusing Beavis and Butthead. Like, you have to have stuff that's cool in order to have stuff, or stuff that sucks in order to have stuff that's cool.
I don't remember what I say half the time.
Yeah, you say something and it's relevant, and it was so awesome, and I hope everybody enjoyed this little story.
Yeah, not totally went sideways.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Cool.
That's what I do. Unscripted conversations there with liquor.
Yeah.
I miss the shit out of you, my friend. Like,
same to you and double too.
I want to play some music so bad.
One of the issues with COVID's been nasty for a whole lot of things, and I miss you a lot too. I'd like to go camping for 6 months after we get out of this cage.
Yeah, I saw my Karina, our mutual friend, today, and she was saying something similar. She was saying, like, can we just, after this is all done, can we just, like, go camping for a week or something? And I was like, yeah, it'd be great. Like, we'll bring a stake and, like, a length of chain for Jake. And then, Betty, her dog, can run free. Jake, of course, is my youngest son, for those that are watching. I wouldn't probably chain him up in the yard and leave him, but I mean, maybe.
Maybe a box.
But to be fair, I left a plate of like cheese and chocolate with a box with a stick in it and a string and I didn't put them in the box.
Yeah, he just came to be that way.
Yep, absolutely. So, like, your life has been very, very strange in the last little while with COVID and just economic bullshit and stuff. The intelligentsia, the academia side of things, I think, is really, really difficult right now because schools are working online and stuff. And there's not a lot of like, you're not going on crazy digs in the San Andreas fault line or anything like that. But I know that
stuff is happening.
But you've been doing some research though.
Yes.
Like, I'm specifically leading you towards the DNA stuff.
A particular paper.
But whatever you want to talk about, like.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that scientists like is to not teach or to not have students around them so you can actually do sciencey science. Because a lot of people who work at universities and stuff, most of the researchers have a class course load. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So now there's not that much. There's some schools do and some schools don't. And it's just crazy. Who knows what's going on, right?
Yeah.
There's all this. And so lots of us are happy to just message and email each other back and forth about ideas and what we're actually working on and stuff that we're actually interested in. And I have been reading, like I asked you about what you're reading lately.
Yep.
And I've been reading up on a lot of papers about human evolution that I've piled up on my desk for like 2 years. So I'm really catching up on the reading. And when that happens, something goes off in my head where I get ideas. Well, you could try this, or you could do that, or, what about the other thing? Or that's a whole pile of bullshit, or whatever. But when your mind is working in that area, in that way, for me anyway, it leads to all kinds of productive details. And I'm really that's kind of the shining part of my life.
Yeah.
The stuff that I'm prostituting myself for money right now is designing earth raping tools for an oil company. And I don't like that. I don't enjoy it. I don't like the people. I don't like the industry. I don't like what we're doing. I don't like any of it.
But to be fair,
everybody at work has a 6-ton truck, and I drive my little green Insight, Honda Insight, and so. Yeah,
I was going to say though, like, to be fair, did you see what the Earth was wearing? Clearly, it was asking for it.
Oh yes, and yeah, it was a young Earth too, not a
child. Yeah.
Well, that's and when we get into that kind of stuff, I think the biggest problem that we have as a species today is the generation of nonsense. As Mark Twain said, a lie goes around the planet twice before the truth has a chance to put its pants on.
Yep.
And it takes 10 times as much energy to debunk a lie than it does to... No, the other way around. I lied. It takes 10 times the energy to support a truth than it does to debunk a lie. So these people who say stuff like... I can't remember her name, but happily so, because she's a monster. Some nature of government official in the States, governor of asshole land.
Yeah.
And she thinks that the California forest fires were started by, what is that called?
Antifa?
Jewish space lasers.
Yes, the Jewish space laser lady.
How the fuck do we get here? Like, if you think those kinds of things, how can you make a car or a cell phone?
I don't understand.
Yeah, and that's rampant. It's everywhere. And, yeah, it's just asinine.
Oh, 100%. We got a chat comment here from Russ Crow Buffalo. He said, I've met Don once, and I know his mind's sharp, so you're already getting flattery, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
I yammered with Russ a couple of nights ago. We were talking about the movie and stuff, and I, of course, mentioned your name because you were offering to do all kinds of really cool shit for the movie. And
Yeah, I've got some done, actually.
Right on. Can I see?
Yeah, I got the badges made, and I'm building guns now.
Are they handy?
They're handy.
So, go ahead.
We have a bit of a problem, maybe. If you just a bunch of kids with a camera running around downtown in an alley, pretending to shoot each other with guns that look huge and all shiny, the police might, take it some kind of a way. So we have to, when we do this, be a little bit more cognizant of the law.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I know Russ has got that sort of on the plans. But yeah, we'll be making sure, because anything we're doing like in public, exactly that. If I'm John Q superhero ninja cop and I'm beating up some, and a real cop sees that, they're probably not going to be like, well, that's all right. I'm sure there's a perfectly rational explanation for this. I'm more likely to get
the correct uniform.
Yeah, the cops will be like, hey, I'm going to murder that fella. No, they won't, because, I'm white.
And you're not a 6-year-old girl.
And I'm not a 6-year-old girl, yeah. Well, to be fair, though, she was a strong 8.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
she had an attitude.
Yeah. Just clearly, a bad seed.
Yeah, just asking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like some of the ways the world is going. I like the concept of don't do that. It's going to hurt the planet. A lot of people are doing that. And I like the fact that people are saying they're not young women, they're children, and I like the fact that people are saying, so how would you like me to pronoun you instead of faggot or whatever. I probably shouldn't have said that too late now.
But
brain cells. But yeah, so for example, here's a story that I was reading earlier today. Well, it's not really a story. It sort of falls out of something I read. It's called greenwashing, and I'm sure most people have heard about it.
Yep.
And there's a plastic bag manufacturer that makes these greenwash plastic shopping bags, and they have this great big symbol that says earth friendly and it's green and Then you read the print on the bottom at the back. That's light green on light green plastic. You sort of have to use some kind of technology to read it. And it says, contains 40% recyclable materials.
One sec, Don.
Yeah.
Can you also stir dinner, take off heat? I just totally realized that I hadn't done that. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And so that kind of attitude, somebody had to plan to make a bag to lie to people about how green it was in order to make money.
Yeah.
And I have trouble with that.
The
original people who made the plastic bags, which are probably CIL or plastic gods of planetary apes.
Yeah.
Those people, the chemists might have understood that, this is not very environmental friendly.
Yeah.
But the leadership didn't. They didn't know. And so they made a bunch of bags and they sold them and they went into the ocean and killed all the turtles.
Yes.
Oh, shit, that's too bad. You can't really hold them culpable because they didn't realize what would happen. But these pricks that are making plastic bags that aren't earth-friendly and selling them as though they are in order to make $1 to get a third Lamborghini or whatever floats their boat.
Yeah.
I think that's a capital offense. And I'd like to see stuff happen to those.
Well, and like, the most charitable thing I can assign to the situation is like maybe the people were like, we'll make a green bag, and then halfway through the project they're like, oh shit, we're not making a green bag. Oh well, we've already spent money on branding. But I mean, like, even if that's me being charitable and like that's what they did, like fuck you monsters.
It's also entirely possible. And I think we've both met these people. I saw one the other day driving down Deerfoot Trail, minus 50 degrees or whatever it was, some kind of insane, lethal number, eating a bowl of cereal while they're driving a truck.
So, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, good idea.
Yeah, my friend Lori commented. She said they should be forced to make a parachute out of all of their bags and jump out of a plane onto a pile of dead dolphins. This is the worst thing I ever said. Ack. Message retracted. I'm glad I caught that in time. Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem at all.
Sorry, Lori.
Well, I don't know about a pile of dead dolphins, but a mountain of broken glass would be fun.
Yep. Glass dolphins, whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
No judgments.
Yeah, none. Well, actually, too late. You've been judged.
Yeah.
I also read a paper today. It was actually yesterday. A group of lunatics in University of Alberta in Edmonton have successfully extracted reasonably large quantities of latex out of dandelion sap. So you know how we make natural rubber? You go down to the rubber tree plants and carve a hole in them, and they bleed rubber.
I know I look like the sort of fella who would know the answer to that, but turns out I do not. Yes.
It turns out you can get latex out of dandelions. So we might not be doing that. We might be having like dandelion crops in Saskatchewan instead of wheat.
Well, the two things that we know that we can make out of dandelions now are wine and latex, which, honestly, the ingredients for a fine night. Yeah, it's date night. If there's a way to convert dandelions to Netflix, I think we're fucking done.
Yeah,
as a species.
The species is finished.
Yes, peak humanity.
Yes, it's over.
Yeah. Oh,
if anybody gets that reference, my hat's off to them.
Did you see today? Or probably not today, but I saw it today that the fine folks at Shell have said that we are approaching peak oil as of like 2 years ago. We hit peak oil, and now it's no longer peak. Now it's valleying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have many things to say about that.
I figured you might, being someone in the know.
The concept of peak oil is just utter, complete, total, and absolute bullshit. Okay, so what's happening is we pump the shit out of the ground. And we're really dumb about it. So we make giant messes. And we fill the oils with junk, and we do all this stupid shit. And then somebody opens up a tap somewhere and floods the market with oil, and then you end up with all this horse shit in the middle of the ocean, rented tankers floating in flotillas, hoping for the price to go up, and other economic nonsense is generated by fake people that made the price of oil go, to negative $30. Okay, stop right there. The other thing that we're doing is there's a whole lot of alternative energies. Like we're making electricity with solar panels, and we're making it with wind turbines, and we're making it with, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So in the old days when everybody's driving cars that run on gas or diesel, and everybody had natural gas or oil heating their houses, and every electron that we had moved was made by burning coal. Fossil fuels were important.
Yep.
And we started saying, okay, so if we're using the growth of uses going like this, and the growth of discoveries going like that, which was at the time negative, then we're going to get to a point where the commodity prices are just going to skyrocket because we're on the wrong side of peak oil.
Yes.
Absolutely simplistic attitude. It completely discredits the fact that we are unbelievably creative species, and we come up with disruptive technologies on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
The first time peak oil was killed by a disruptive technology was slant hole drilling, or steering a drilling system underground so you could go to where the well was instead of poke it with a stick.
Yeah. I saw that episode of The Simpsons, so yeah, I'm familiar. You put a oil derrick on its side, and it goes under Springfield Elementary and gets all their oil. Yes, yes.
Exactly, yeah. And my brain just goes doiling because Kuwait was taken over by Madman Hussein because he thought that Kuwaitis were slant drilling under his oil, and it was just nuts. And thusly, millions of people died because people are stupid.
Yes.
Anyway, so the concept of peak oil is, it's like saying peak buggy whip. At one time, there was a whole lot of manufacturers of buggy whips.
Yes. And
nobody drives horses with a whip anymore. There's probably a few people. I've seen the Queen do it. But, there's probably only one person sitting in the corner of his basement in, Brookfield, Massachusetts, that's the world's greatest buggy whip maker, and he sells them for $1,700 each.
Yes.
But you can't go to the store and get a buggy whip. Nobody wants those. So long ago, peak buggy whip.
Yeah.
But it was replaced by other stuff. Steam trains and airplanes and cars and all of that stuff takes fresh air and diesel oil and turns it into smoke and noise. Mm-hmm. And we're beyond that. I think we're beyond that. I think we can use electrons more intelligently, apply our brains to better use.
My hope is when they talk about things like peak oil, what the purpose of it is to imply that not that all of a sudden the Earth has no oil, because I think that's dumb, right? And what we've learned in the last 30 years is that we're really good, as you say, we're very creative and we're very clever and we're really fucking good at squeezing every last drop of oil out. I think peak oil is a combination of the value of oil in comparison to other technologies, whether it's energy or lubricants or whatever. And we're at a place now where it's like, now if we aren't moving forward with other things, we're fucking idiots. I think the original, and I'm sure Shell's still going with the idea of production as the key of peak oil, because they have to sell it to their shareholders. But ultimately, I mean, in my mind, it's more a question of, is this even viable anymore? And
well, we're not there yet.
No, not at all. But we're at the place now where it's like, okay, we need to start thinking about this shit. We need to start throwing technology.
If you're not making plans and decisions for yourself, other people will make them for you.
Absolutely.
And that's what's happening. Tesla disrupted the automobile industry. Now, the share price of Tesla cars is ridiculously overpriced, and it's because investors are running around in the circles going wee. But it still was a disruptive technology. Maybe the quality of the car isn't that great, or maybe the price is too high for the average, but it's a damn good car for the money, and it pollutes a whole lot less than, say, my old Bronco.
Yes.
Now you can start rattling on about, the batteries are kind of painful, which is true, but that's just another thing that we're going to come up with, another disruptive technology.
Oh, absolutely. Non-disruptive, I just figured out. Well, I didn't just figure out. I've been practicing. This is the first time I've gone for a cigarette while doing a yammer and not resulting in massive feedback. So I just won the whole wide world right there.
Yes, you did. I bow upon your knees. I bow on my knees towards you.
Well, on your knees, Pilgrim.
Yeah, Pilgrim.
All right.
You're in the East, right? Whoops, sorry.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, bad dongo. No,
Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget you're old and don't fucking know any better.
Well,
I swear, like
the challenge is
my.
I don't care.
Well, you do. You don't like hurting people's feelings. You don't like being an asshole. You like being an asshole when it's funny.
That's true. I'll buy that for $1.
And I think that what qualifies as being an asshole, but it's funny, isn't the same anymore.
Yeah,
and I think
I've nailed the dinosaur on that.
I mean, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but that doesn't sound like good sex.
I don't know what to do with all the ugly puppies.
Right? And they're all like, they have that thirst for human blood, and it's like, no. Sit in the fucking corner.
Yeah. So another question for you.
Sure.
What's the next instrument that you shall learn how to play? Because you know a few now. Well,
I know a few in the sense that I'm not like all the way terrible with several. I'm trying to learn guitar as we speak.
Yes, I've seen that.
And that is, it's hard because I'm trying to also make sure that I'm not fucking around and missing out on my trumpet and my bass, and so finding time is difficult. Once I have effectively mastered the guitar, I don't know what's next. I've been thinking about the trombone, like seriously thinking about buying a trombone.
Right.
I've also been thinking about
another one.
Well, because I have the shitty plastic one, but
yeah,
it's not going to work. It's an okay way to learn, but it's not a good end game.
Right on.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally. But I've kind of always wanted to play what the fuck is it called now? That concertina, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not like the big accordion or anything like that, but like a proper old Italian style concertina where I can like play and do things.
That's part of the Newfoundland heritage. I used to have one, but it got stolen. I don't know what happened. Something bad.
One sec. Shh. I'm on Yammering. You can come in the house. It's fine, but okay. Speak words. Yes, you can steal a smoke off me. This is what parenting in this year is. But just they're inside. They're inside on the couch.
Yes.
I genuinely love the fact that I have my kids living with me. I genuinely love that I have the opportunity to like get to know them better and encounter them in ways that I didn't for so fucking long. But also,
it's been, I should say, a bit of a change, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
it really definitely has been.
What's the plan for kicking them out?
Well, it's pandemic, so I'm probably not going to do that. But in the reality is that my hope is that I won't have to kick them out. That they'll find develop.
A way,
yeah, they're both in school. The two that live with me, they're both in school. They're doing fairly well.
Cool. That's an impressive change all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They've definitely improved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the mistakes that they're making now are the mistakes that I made when I was their age.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to not get it.
Yeah. Stop it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my hope is that what will happen is they will in a couple of years' time, they'll be working, they'll be living lives, and they'll be like, I want to move out on my own. And they will, off they fuck. And, I'll have the door open. If shit happens and they need a hand, like I'm always going to be here.
Yeah.
But you hear a lot about like, all these gosh darn millennials and Gen Z kids, they constantly come back home. Well, the reason they fucking constantly come back home is because this is not a world that is very fucking kind to them.
No, it's I would not want to be a child today.
No, it's bullshit.
I totally agree. Like we have done real disservices to the young, and pretty much anybody really. Like I'm.
Oh yeah.
You and I, excuse me, you and I are both prostituting ourselves for money. We're selling our body and brains to get enough money to buy a burger or a box of smokes. And I resent that a lot, but that's where I live, right? That's what I'm doing.
Yep, these are the facts of our lives.
Yeah, and like, how do you get through it when you're a kid? Like, school is as boring as they could possibly make it. I think they sat down and said, in a group of people, highly educated educators, and say, okay, what can we do to make this as boring as possible?
Yeah.
That's, a lot of my friends have kids that are going through this shit and like, hate school. Well, why is that? Nobody's answering that question.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the other thing that we've done is we've made a concerted effort in the last little while.
Yeah.
Let me just switch cameras here. Okay, I go like this and like that.
Well, you're doing that.
And there we go. And there we go.
There we go. That was my armpit. Did you like it?
I did. Now I have to switch things. I think. Fuck. I have a feeling like
bad things.
Potentially. Hang on. I'm going to switch to you.
Okay, I'll be here.
And then I'm going to switch back to both of us. And why is this still picking up my... There. And my webcam is... Or my mic is picking up. Okay, we're good. Sorry. I had a moment there. Yeah. It would be awesome if I didn't smoke. You have to say?
Yeah, the band No More Moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying what they're doing, and I'm really enjoying the people that are doing it.
I 100% agree.
That's a new area for me. I feel because I'm a white guy that inherited basically North America after it was stolen from our First Nations friends, I feel guilty. And I don't know how to deal with that. This and that and the other thing we go through. But for example, when I like to go for drives in the country all the time, I'll cross a First Nations land. Some people call them reservations. Again, I'd rather refer to what they call their properties instead of what I think they are. And I feel like I'm trespassing.
Yep.
And I've always felt like that. But now that I've got exposure and friends, and I'm trying to get more involved, but, it is what it is. I have nothing but respect for it. And I enjoy immensely having made that change. Like, I'm an old dog, and this is a new trick. And boy, do I ever like learning new tricks.
Absolutely. I completely get that. In a very real sense, like when I was a kid, I grew up in a world where, the natives were, to be feared and shunned, and like that's fucking terrible. That's absolutely fucking terrible.
It really is terrible. Well, Norm was telling me, I had coffee with him far too long ago. I'd like to do it again soon, but that'll be up to him and I. He once said that he'd like to be in just a band, not an Indian band. Right? It'd be nice if the Indian bands, quote unquote, were called just a band, because that's what they are.
Yep, and that's totally how I view them. Yeah. I actually
it is how I do now.
Yeah, I had a weird realization a few weeks ago when I was planning out, the next few yammers that I was going to do, and I had Corey, and I had Norm, and I had La Corazon from Bear Clan Patrol, and I was like, I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, like, I have all of these indigenous people that I'm going to be talking with. And I had this like weird white guilt of like, am I trying to stack the deck? Which wasn't the case. I was just like, who wants to come yammer? And people were like, I want to come yammer. All right, well then come yammer. But it's bizarre.
It's, well, human sociability is a really complicated topic. And I don't really want to get into the little that I know about it because I'd probably put my foot in my ass. But like I say, for 60 years, I would be afraid to go onto the Blackfoot Nation. Mm-hmm. But now, when I drive by there, I don't feel like I belong, because I don't. But I feel like I've got people that I know there. And some that I like to call my friends. Yeah. And that's a really liberating experience. And I don't know how they feel about it. Maybe they'll comment, or maybe one day we'll have a chat and eat some hot dogs and laugh. But yeah, it's been a really outstanding learning experience for me about humanity. And that's fascinating to me, kind of obviously.
No, I absolutely understand that, my friend. Like I said, like when I grew up in a world much like the one that you grew up in, where we had preconceived notions about, indigenous people were the following 8 types of people, and that was it. And when I first started to, as an adult, to interact with indigenous people and realize that, like, oh fuck, I was all kinds of wrong all along. It's embarrassing as all fuck.
Oh yeah. And our parents lied to us. Really? Well, our society lied to us.
Yeah.
On a whole lot of levels, right? Like, look at the Puritan work ethic. The Puritans are extinct. So how did that work out for them?
Yep. I switched to just you camera, so I don't have to show off the fact that I stood up to fix my pants.
Oh yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah, you got the full brunt of that.
I just threw up a little bit.
But yeah, no, I found, like, when our first show as Johnny Incognito was with Abortion Grenade, Norm's band.
Yeah.
And they were amazing and welcoming and awesome, and we were good, happy to be just as amazing and welcoming and awesome. And I feel like Norm's band inspired this next wave of bands that includes, like, No More Moments and Iron Tusk and After the Prophet and
it's also one of the best band names I know of.
And their art for their albums is so good. Oh my god. And my hope is that what happens is because, like, Calgary Beer Corps has been very, very, like, I wouldn't say we've been welcoming to indigenous people so much as we've been like, you are a band, come play with us, hang out with us, get to know us, we're all good. And I'm seeing, why is my parents just called me really loudly on my phone? I don't know if that came on there or not. I don't think it. Did you hear anything?
I heard some weirdness, but I ignored it because I can do that.
Okay, yeah, they're probably, so they're going to call back like 86 times, I guarantee you, because, I declined the call and they'll be like, oh, he's probably dying. Yes. I should really do that thing where I make my phone, I can do that, one sec. I can push, which button is it? There's a button.
Off.
That button. And I push it again. There we go. It's not off, because off would mean that you and I can't communicate. But there's like a leave me the fuck alone setting, and so I just set leave me the fuck alone on, which I should have done earlier. And I remember talking about it before, and I was like, I should probably do that, and then I did not.
Yeah.
So yeah, leave me the fuck alone setting is name on. But yeah, like I hope that what happens is that like I know Norm played for a long time in a variety of not native bands or indigenous bands, and I hope that what we see is more, like, I know Mark Russell just went to record a song with No More Moments, which I think is fucking completely awesome. Yeah. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that, like, indigenous people just joining other bands and those bands not being dicks and being like, hey, check it out, we have a native fella, we're progressive. That would just piss me right off. But I've always taken the approach of these are friends of mine and they're playing music and they're musicians and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter any of the other shit. Which every time when I say that, I feel very much like that white guy going, I don't see color.
I see color. I'm not blind.
Yeah, I'm not and I'm not going to be an idiot. Yeah, exactly.
Like when I was growing up, and I remember having an argument with my dad about this. God rest his almighty soul. And that's a joke, by the way. He used to say that the prairie natives didn't evolve with access to alcohol, so they were extremely susceptible to alcohol abuse.
Yep.
And that's absolute and complete and total bullshit in every possible measure.
When I was a kid, I was told that natives had a specific, unique genetic quality that required, the minute they even came near like an alcohol swab for a needle, obviously they were going to become raging alcohol. And I'm like, this is how I grew up. This is the stories that we heard.
Yeah.
And that's fucking gross.
To me, lying to children like that is, to me, a punchable offense.
Oh, yeah.
We both got lied to a lot about the nonsense. And,
except Jesus.
I'm sorry to break the bubble, but I've got him in a bucket in my garage. You should come say hi.
You can believe in Santa Claus, you can believe in the Easter Bunny, you can believe in the kindness of white society, but you cannot believe in Jesus Christ.
The kindness of white society.
Believe whatever you want, yeah. I'm with you. And that's like when I became an atheist, I was a asshole about it. And I know that I was an asshole about it. And it was that sense of like, I have been fucking lied to by everyone in my life.
Yeah.
And I was angry as fuck about that. And I got over that to an extent. I hit a point where I was like, I don't think people were lying to me. I think people didn't understand the world as I've come to understand it, and maybe they believe the lie that they've been told. But yeah, man, pissed me right off, and I was a fucking pain in the ass. I was meddling kids.
That's the same, like, we were just talking about alcohol abuse, and there's all kinds of other anthropomorphisms that the shall we say society in power, which is a joke in its own right, perpetrate forever. Like that nonsense about people being unable to handle alcohol or tobacco or too lazy to work or Indian time or all this absolutely abject horseshit. That came from the John A. MacDonald era, and if anybody could drink, it was that guy.
Oh yes.
So maybe he was pulling his pants up to cover his own dick hanging out, and who knows? But did my dad lie to me? Well, I don't think so, because he was told the same lies, and it goes back and back and back and back. And so, to me, the happiness and pride that I get out of that is I have recognized these for lies with the help of some others, and I will not perpetrate these lies.
Yeah.
So that.
And that's exactly the thing. Like when we see behind the curtain and we go like, oh wow, I was fucking wrong. We have the choice of like, okay, well I can cash in on this for great success, or I can do nothing and just reap the benefits of other people's ignorance, or I can actively try and change. And the hope is that we try and change. I've certainly I don't want to like, oh, look at me as an example, I'm wonderful.
Oh yes.
But I've tried very hard to overcome a lot of the things that I was raised with, and a lot of the silly, ridiculous, like especially with indigenous people, because like we get taught a lot about them in school.
Yeah.
But we don't get taught a lot of actual truth about them. We get the sort of the noble savage myth of like, oh yes, and they were so good, they even learned how to run at buffalo and make them jump off a cliff. That's how crazy and then white people came along and we saved them and showed them the Jesus and made sure they understood the real world.
That's a story of an Eskimo. I don't know what his name was. Tom took a look, and he was talking to some nature of a pastor abuse person who went up there, and the First Nation person goes, "Would I have gone to heaven if I didn't know about Jesus and God?" And the pastor goes, "Well, yes." And then the guy goes, "So why did you tell me?" And I've always thought that, yeah, that right there, ding.
Yep.
So yeah,
I had a conversation with my mom the last time that I was in Kelowna before my kids all moved here, and she was driving me around somewhere, and I looked over and she was crying, and I was like, "Mom, what's the matter?" And she said, I had this realization that, like, when I die, I'll never see you again. I won't see you in heaven. And I was like, okay, well, you're right. You won't see me in heaven. But what? And she explained that, because I'm a atheist, clearly I can't go to heaven. And I was like, okay, Mom, honest answer. Like, I'm a good person. I'm not the best person there ever was, but I try to live a good life. I try to be good to other people. I don't steal. I don't lie. I own up to when I fuck up. Like, I do what I can. I don't lie is a lie, but you know what I mean? Like, I try. And as a human being, I think I'm doing all right. And I don't know if I'm not going to pretend like, there could never be a better person than me, but I try to be as good as I can. And I said, like, if you're telling me that the God you believe in, who was a just and loving God, let's pretend for a second that he's 100% real, and I die, and I go up to the pearly gates, and they go, "Wow, Jim, you were a good person. You weren't perfect, but you did try, and you worked hard, and you cared about other people, and you did good things. But you didn't believe in Jesus, so you get to burn in hell." I was like, "Is that really a heaven you want to live in?" And she's like, "Well, no." And I was like, "Then don't fucking worry about it. Either I'm right, and you won't see me in heaven because you won't be in heaven, or you're right, and you'll see me in heaven because I'm a good fucking person."
Yeah.
But
it's all make believe.
Oh, and yeah, 100%.
That's the thing to me that I have trouble with, and it's a growing thing. Recently, there was a poll taken in Iceland. Well, maybe not recently. It's probably 5 years ago now. And they were trying to find somebody between the ages of 15 and 25 who believed in and prayed to on a daily basis some kind of spiritual thing that they believed had some kind of, how the politicians ask these 7,000 syllable questions.
Yes.
I'd go, "God, yes or no," and they have to go blah blah blah. Anyway, they couldn't find anybody in that age group in Iceland.
Yep.
That had that believed in God or some godlike thing.
Yeah.
That's turning into a big issue in the States. The Americans are quitting their belief systems. I would say in droves, but it's gone up 10 or 15% in the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that continue.
It's a good trend.
Because, well, put it this way. Believing in science flies you to the moon. Mm-hmm. Believing in nonsense flies you into buildings. And I don't like that.
Yeah, no. I definitely, I feel like the things that we do when we're acting out of faith are almost exclusively awful, And that's not to say, like, the church that I grew up in as a young Christian fellow was a very loving and very accepting environment, except for me. I've always felt like I was a freak, but I'll give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
They were all about that sort of hippie 60s version of Jesus who didn't care about the things you did that were wrong. He cared about the things you did that were right, and it was a great way for me to grow up. And I really didn't understand, like, when I had friends who had that more, like, fire and hellfire, or fire and brimstone kind of, Christian tradition. I was like, what do you mean? Like, and what I came to realize is that whether it's the super hippie Christian that I grew up with, or the, fire and brimstone, or the Church of Jesus Christ Aryan Nations, or whatever, like, it's all the same fucking book, and it just depends on what you take out of it.
Read another book, asshole.
Yeah. I love the Patton Oswalt bit where he's like, look, I'm glad you read a book. Like, yeah.
The choice was kind of shit, but...
Yeah, like there are other books.
Yeah. I don't care what people believe to a certain extent. I care that people learn to believe in things that are real. You see, they're apocryphal, I'm sure, where people have a bumper sticker on their car that says, Jesus, take the wheel. And they just cross their arms and close their eyes and leave the driving to God, right?
Yeah.
And then they crash into a bridge and kill a family of lawyers. I don't know if that actually ever happened or ever happens.
No, it doesn't happen because they would be dead, and Christians would be like, well, that seems like a dumb thing to say. Jesus, take the wheel. They'll be like, oh, it's a more metaphoric sort of a conversation about the wheel of our lives. No one expects Jesus to drive the car. Yeah, that's just crazy talk.
I want a bumper sticker that says Jesus, take a hike.
One of my favorite things ever, and I think I talked about this just the other night on here. My buddy was a substitute teacher in Calgary, and he had a lecture that he had to give, and I shit you not, he brought it home and like specifically so he could show me. The title of the handout that he had to teach from was, "So You Want to Be a Moral Relativist," and it was. Exactly, like it was a Catholic school board thing, and it was exactly what you think. It is like, so I guess we should rape babies because morality is relative. Whatever you want to do is okay because relative. And I was like, that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. But that's like, people are running around doing that now. They're like, what the fuck?
Well, when it comes to morality, the thing that's actually true is morality is a human construct.
Yes.
The way a tiger acts is the way tigers act. And if you do something around a tiger that makes it respond in some way, like, for example, slather yourself in steak sauce and run in front of it and lay down, naked, the tiger's going to do something. It'll kill you and eat you. That's just the way they are, right?
Yeah.
And we are more complicated people, primarily because of our society and brain size and a whole bunch of other nonsense. But we have a similarity where we like things to be moral, like don't steal my car, right? Steal that guy's car. We don't know him. He's from the other village.
Mm-hmm.
There's some fairly complicated moral codes in our society, but none of them ever come from the 10 Commandments. Like, there's only a couple of the commandments that say stuff, that honor no other gods but me.
For I am a jealous God.
Yes. That's kind of the essence of sadomasochism. Fuck off. Like, you want to have commandments, don't molest children would be one for me. That'd be the first one.
Yeah, maybe slavery is something we shouldn't do.
Yeah, perhaps we shouldn't sell human beings into eternal bondage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've come a long ways, and we got a long ways to go.
I think it's interesting.
It's important to know that most of us are basically 10 hairs away from being baboons. So we're doing the best we can.
I don't have wisdom teeth, so I'm like 14 hairs away. No, the thing that I think is interesting about what you were just saying, not that the whole thing wasn't interesting, but it made me think how we put our morality on animals. And the best example I can think of is this idea that like the lions only go after the weak in the herd, and that's because it strengthens the herd. No.
Nope.
That's because the weak are fucking easy to kill. Like
they're the catchable ones.
Yeah, like
why nobody like science? Okay, nature is lazy, and so you want to get as much gain from as little effort as you can.
Yep.
That's the process.
Yep.
And so when we say stuff like strengthens the herd, we call that anthropomorphizing.
Yes.
Why do we want to strengthen the herd? Like, who's in charge of this? Is there some, man in the sky going, "Ooh, strengthen the herd"? No, it's just a thing that happens.
Yes. Right? And what's interesting with that is and this made me think of a story you told me. I thought about it as like a mathematical equation. Like, we want to get as much as we can for as little effort as possible. And then you look at like the amount of energy utilized to, from food consumption versus energy output. And it made me think of the story you had of the, how we used to hunt elk and other animals. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Not yet.
Okay, so you had told me about a doctor of anthropology who had looked at ancient peoples and was like, one of the things that people did was they ran. They ran the fuck after elk. I found that really, really fascinating. Can I get you to tell that story?
Well, parts of it, yeah. The interesting thing is, boy, this really gets complicated. I don't even know where to start.
Do you want me to tell it and you tell me where I'm an idiot?
No, but yes.
Okay. So my understanding of it.
Where I tell you you're an idiot.
Okay, well, we'll edit those in post-production.
Okay.
So my understanding of it is that essentially one of the things that humans can do is run like a motherfucker. And that we used this in a time, I don't know if it was before we had tools or if it was at the same time as we had tools or whatever, but we would find, you're walking down the grasslands, doopity-doopity-doo, off in the distance, you're like, that's a fucking elk. I'm going to eat me some elk.
Yeah.
And I would haul off after that elk. And that elk is like a million times faster than me. And that elk looks at me and is like, okay, homie. And he fucks off. And he's like, okay, yeah, plenty of space. We're good. I'm going to eat some grass. That's how I get my energy. I'm just going to eat some grass.
Yeah.
Nom, 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 nom. And slowly I come, and the elk finally is like, oh,
shit, that guy.
Yeah, he's still fucking coming, all right? Elk fucks off, looks off in the distance. I got plenty of time. I'm really hungry. I'm going to eat some more fucking grass. And here I come. And the elk is like, okay, this is fucking. And eventually, because the elk doesn't get enough energy from the food that they're eating in such little bursts, and because it's complex to digest, their energy stores wane. And me, because I'm me, and I've got all this fucking, from the last elk I just ate, I'm full of elk, so I got protein for days, so I can run for like a billion fucking hours. Not a billion fucking hours, but I can run a long ass time. That elk will get exhausted, even though it's way faster than me, and even though it's probably even way smarter than me back then, because let's face it, I was never smart.
I wouldn't say about back then.
Yeah, fair.
You're eating cereal on Deerfoot again.
Yeah. But yeah, that eventually the elk simply doesn't have the energy left to withstand my stupid running at it. And
there's a couple of complexities.
Check.
You told the story really well. I don't have the animation that you do. But there's a couple of things that we are that is maybe that's a good thing. we move with great efficiency because of bipedalism.
Yes.
And we sweat. And we're basically naked. So when we sweat from every square inch of our body, basically, not really, but it cools us off. Whereas the ungulate, the deer or the antelope, covered in fur, has to sweat out of its mouth. They don't have sweat glands in there.
Stupid ungulates.
Yeah, stupid. They are able to move very fast in short spurts, but they have no stamina. And humans are kind of the stamina kings. We've all heard stories of running marathons. There's a guy in Cochrane, who ran a marathon a day every day for, I think, a year. And that is a thing that no other animal can do that doesn't fly. Birds can go a long ways by flapping, but there's a lot of gliding involved in long distance flying.
Which is the same with running, like when you're running along and then you just like put your legs up and rest.
Yeah. Yes, it's a bruising experience.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of interesting science around bipedalism. And when you aren't bipedal, when you can't walk on your hind feet much, you can't carry things, or carrying things is harder. And things like, for example, two babies of different ages. You don't see that in any other ape.
Okay.
They have one baby and it gets old or dies, and then they have another baby and they keep doing that. But we can have a whole slew of them going at the same time.
We can be Mormons.
Yes, we didn't stand up to do that.
Yes.
So we could carry tools and conquer the planet. That's not what it's about. It just turned out randomly that this process of being a sweating creature that stood up for some reason, probably a variety of reasons, they were successful by an accident of where they evolved. We see really, really weird things in the oceans around reefs and stuff, sea slugs, and it's unbelievably weird creatures with incredible colors and blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't evolve to be beautiful. It evolved because the one with the red stripe and the yellow stripe and the blue dots reproduced better than the ones without the blue dots, for no reason really at all.
And that's a thing that when I talk about evolution with people, and obviously you know far more about this than I do because of your core studies, but I can't fucking understand how people just... They really don't get that evolution isn't like a decision that an animal makes one day, like, oh, maybe as a fish, I'll try going on the old Lando. Maybe that'll work out for me.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got lungs suddenly. Oh, that'll come in handy.
Yeah, it has to do, like, the road to humans is absolutely littered with failed species and morphs that didn't work. It's nothing but really solar radiation going through our DNA and switching shit on and off. Get two heads or three toes or whatever. And if you have two heads, nobody's going to have sex with you. So that two-headed gene dies out. It's not because two heads are better than one. It's because that didn't work.
Yeah. Like I read Your Inner Fish. I'm assuming you've probably read that as well. Yes. And like again, I'm by no means the expert that you are, but what I loved about the concept of that book, which for the record, for those that are watching, Your Inner Fish is Neil Shalin.
I think so.
Something along those lines. Anyways,
not very good with the names.
And he went. He basically made the prediction that based on where continents were back in 500 million years ago, which was his assumption of using mathematics to come up with.
Yeah.
This is where I think we would find coastal properties that could have had the conditions where we might have found one of those early fish that had shoulders. And
Tiktaalik.
Tiktaalik was, and they went to the Northwest Territories, and I think it was the Northwest Territories or the Yukon or Nunavut or whatever, and they found like 16 specimens of what they call Tiktaalik.
Where they thought they would be.
And what's interesting about it is because dumb fuck me, I grew up with this idea that eventually one fish decided to try breathing air, and then went back in the water and was like, oh my god, I breathed air, and then his kids were like, I breathed air twice. And eventually, like, that was the story of evolution I was told, where in fact Tiktaalik, to me, what makes the most sense is Tiktaalik, something fucked up with its DNA, and it's got these weird flappy shoulder things instead of like the usual fins, and it's like, well, maybe I'll just die because I suck at being a fish, but I'm really good at going in shallow water, which is oxygen poor, and I can still manage because I've got these fucking things. I can push my head up and like gulp some air and survive. And there's all this food here because all the like it's a natural safe zone for small fish, oxygen poor water. Big predators couldn't get in there, but the little ones was like fucking away and making like great big lumps of fish. And so Tiktaalik had this shitty experience where he was a garbage fish, and then was like, but on the upside, I can go in this fucking water and I can eat all these stupid ass fucking fish and gulp in water or whatever. Like, and that's so much more understandable and in line with what I understand about evolution than the fucking fish on water.
Actually, we know that evolution is a fact.
Yes.
There is still a lot of argument and discussion about the mechanism by which evolution works.
Well, it's clearly Jesus.
And there's literally dozens of theories, punctuated equilibrium and pulsation and so on. And current thoughts are that organisms react to their environment in a positive/negative feedback loop. So some kind of strange thing happens in the DNA, and it's usually tiny. Doesn't matter even what it is. And say the eyes get worse.
Yeah.
So that creature can't find food and dies. Doesn't pass on its genes.
Yep.
And the one that has better eyes lives. But if it's living in a cave, having better eyes doesn't matter.
Yes.
If it's living on a savanna, having better eyes does matter. So it's a complicated and really quite interesting interaction between various environments. So savannas last for dozens of millions of years. So creatures can evolve into these niches in savanna that doesn't have any evolutionary pressure. So when you are born with longer horns, doesn't do you any good. So the species doesn't change much over a period of time. But then there's a huge volcano, and the prairies turn into a lake. Now you have to be a fish. Well, you're not going to be a fish when you're an antelope. The antelopes are going to die, and the fish are going to move in. But it's hot sulfuric water, so the fish are going to slowly, from a day-to-day point of view, life-to-life point of view, get more used to the horrible conditions. But once they're used to the horrible conditions, like there's this evolutionary pressure to change it into a new thing that can handle this environment, this niche. But niche stability is a thing that people are studying a lot now about, well, how did that happen? And how come that, coelacanth is a fish that lasted some huge amount of time, millions, maybe 125 million years, or can't remember, brain's not working, tired, cold. And we catch them now, and they're no different. And that's because the environment that they live in hasn't changed in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really complicated thing. It's it's not evolving upright postures so that you could stand tall and have a stiff British upper lip in order to be the king of the nation. Bipedalism may actually have preceded our split from the Pongidae, the apes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're finding really interesting fossils that are really, really old that have strange morphology in bipedalism. Maybe they were much better at climbing things than we are. The interesting thing is we don't have the fossils. We always need more fossils.
Yeah.
Always need more data. And the fun thing from my point of view is we are now looking into DNA for that kind of data.
Mm-hmm.
It's been recently interesting. So here's the story. 100,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthalensis, and nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, then they found a finger bone in Denisova cave, and we found Homo Denisovans through DNA testing. They did a DNA test on this finger bone. It's at the end of the little finger of a young girl, and they found that the DNA is radically different. So now there's 3. And then they found Homo floresiensis, the hobbit in the caves in Indonesia. Now there's 400,000 years ago. So, okay, let's look close at the DNA. We get DNA samples from all over the planet. It turns out that there might be anywhere between 5 and 9 species alive or kicking around 100,000 years ago. It's kind of hard to tell because we don't really have the skill to read the DNA well. So what's interesting is we're looking at new data in different ways, and we're learning more.
Yeah.
In the days when we were just looking for fossils, Louis Leakey and all his band of lunatics, they were trying to find older and older fossils and smaller brains and more weirder teeth, and this is Homo and that's not Homo, and they're just basically little rough rocks. They're not really very good fossils, and huge battles and people yelling and fights. There was actually fist fights. It's just stupid shit because people. Well, somebody, and the whole idea was, when did we split off from the line that turned into chimpanzees at the same time we turned into humans?
Yeah, but the question of where's the common ancestor kind of thing, or?
Well, it's we'll talk about that at another time.
Okay.
But the point is, the fossils didn't tell us. They couldn't tell us because we don't have enough of them when that split occurred.
Okay.
But the DNA nailed it to the wall. And when the DNA people first reported that this happened 6.5 million years ago, roughly, the fossil people go, "Wow, but you can't do that. That doesn't make any sense." Well, the science is solid. You checked it, and then you checked it, and other people checked it, and then you checked it again, and they came up the same answer. So that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're finding fossils that fit into that because that's the right answer. So what's really fun is you found an important aspect of human evolution without fossils. You did it in a lab with DNA.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, that's completely, and DNA is teaching us things that are, even about more modern humans that are fascinating, and that we're evolving our understanding of the world around us.
Oh yeah, it's just moving at a pace that is frightening, to be honest.
Yes.
So yeah, that's really kind of an amazing time to be alive, and I don't want to die for another 400 years because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's interesting that we today in this world in 2021, with all that we know, we still have people who are like, but evolution isn't real, and now we've got COVID is showing us evolution in a very real, and you can't be
right in front of your noses.
You can't be like, well, yeah, I mean that's evolution, but obviously other evolution isn't real. Like I don't get the cognitive dissonance, but I think it's fascinating to see. And the other example, and I'm sure you probably know about this because you're smarter about all this stuff than I am, but not bed bugs. Is it bed bugs? I think it's bed bugs where there are two almost different species. And there's one strain of bed bugs that, and whatever the appropriate terminology is, primarily focus. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I totally do.
Okay.
Parasitology. So you have
fucking parasites.
Oh fuck! I do. For
the record, I want you to keep talking. I'm gonna take me off camera, and I'm gonna go pee while you talk. I'll still be able to hear you and communicate with you.
Can I?
But I have to pee.
Will I be able to hear you pee?
You will, but only you. Okay. You lucky dog.
Yes, I'm gonna record from here.
Okay, fair. And the camera stays up here, mister.
Alrighty. So you got hair follicle mites, and you have various kinds of hair parasites. And the interesting thing is, these creatures evolve just like all other creatures when their environments change. So when we went from being an ape that had hair all over us to being an ape that has hair in only a few places, the animals that forage on our hair follicle flakes and keratin chunks that live in hair, they evolved quickly too. So we've been able to determine when people got hairless by looking at the DNA and therefore the evolution of various kinds of on-skin parasites. And I like that kind of stuff a great deal. I like creative ways of looking at things that give us another way of understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the point of scientific inquiry is really about, like, we get what the world is, but we could get it so much better if we just, learn a little bit of stuff. Once upon a time, the answer of the Earth is the center of the universe, and God loves us and is real, and humans existed for exactly the 6,000 years that we said they did. All of that was immutable, essentially scientific fact, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
And someone came along, Galileo came along and was like, I looked at the sky and I don't know if I agree with you. And Kepler came along and was like, it's not what we think. It's not. There's things. And I think that's super fucking cool that people have had that capacity to question. I mean, even and I can't remember the name. I'm sure you know the name of the guy, but the homeboy in, I think it was EO or whatever, who was like, read a scroll and was like, oh, at noon on the longest day of the year, my stake won't cast a shadow, because the dude had that happen. So he hammers a stake in, waits for the longest day of the year at noon. He's like, that's a fucking shadow.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Pays a slave to walk all the way to Alexandria or whatever fucking city it was, like 600 kilometers away, and come back and be like, dude, that was a long walk. And he figured out that the Earth was fucking round, like years before, like 200 years before Christ.
Well,
BCE, sorry.
2600 BC, or Yeah, 2600 BC.
Was it? I thought it was closer.
No, it was a
Don't
really
get me
long
wrong. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be like, well, Dongo, cite your sources.
But the thing
I
is,
read on internet.
That discovery's been made a handful of times. The Chinese made the same discovery in the same way around the same time. So, we've had many societies that have learned great things on their own. And that's cool. I like it. I respect it. But as a species, we move faster if we build on each other's structures.
Yes.
That's kind of important, for me anyway.
100% agree.
Yeah. One of the things that's fun, I heard a question and answer about some, I don't remember the details because I don't care about them. But this gentleman asked another person, a scientist who was on the stage, can you prove to me that the Earth is more than 6,000 years old? So you kind of get how this antagonism is going.
Yes.
And so the scientist said, the fact that there is lead proves that the Earth is billions of years old. And this is how it happens. Lead is the final result of 4 or 5 chain reactions of radioactive elements, plutoniums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they have extremely long half-lives that you can measure in a lab. And so the only way to get lead is through these decay processes from radioactive elements that are made in the cores of dying, exploding stars.
Yes.
So the fact that there's lead is proof that the system is billions of years old. And I thought that was a novel way to explain that. Instead of saying, fossil, because then that doesn't mean it's just a rock with a funny shape if you have pure ignorance.
Well,
but when you say... that gets to the other questions. If a person is unwilling to listen, what can you say to them to make them hear?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yes. I describe it as a deficiency of high velocity lead.
Excellent. I think that the way that people learn in that sort of extreme example is, they die. The worst case scenario, your Ken Hams are never going to learn that there is a thing called evolution, and it's really, really real, and answers are not necessarily all in Genesis. But I think that, for most human beings who are reasonable and worthwhile, and I remember talking with my sister, and she was struggling with the idea of evolution, and she was saying, I just don't get how two monkeys could have a baby and it was human. And I was like, I also don't get that, because that's not how shit works.
Yeah.
Who told you this? No. Shit, I'm knocking my phone on the fire.
Oh my goodness! Still hear me? So exciting.
But you can still hear me is the key, because this is my connection to you. Yes. So throwing it on the ground was just me being a dick. But yeah, it's super fucking easy to misunderstand these kind of core concepts and to look at it when that argument of how could 2 monkeys have a human baby, and who was the human baby having sex with? Because it's a lack of an understanding of the long period of time that evolution takes over, or takes place over. It's well,
I've always had sort of a funny thought about, and I've never said this to people because I haven't had the chance, mostly because not very many people talk to me.
Here we are.
At any rate, people say I am not descended from no ape. I've seen this on YouTube. And it's okay, so you'd rather be descended from a handful of dirt Is that better? Because that's what they're saying.
I love when people go like, I don't have no, like, I ain't no from no ape, and I'm like, not only are you from an ape, motherfucker, or some proto ape that you don't understand because we don't have it. Not only that, but you have a common ancestor with a fucking carrot, you piece of shit. That makes people like, no.
Yes,
but it's accurate.
Yeah, you share a significant amount of DNA with, amoebas.
and
that's a statement.
Yeah, like I love the way that the common vernacular has adopted that. Like, well, I share 96% of my DNA with chimpanzees, and that is true. But the amount that that 4% is pretty fucking important. Not only that, you
Hang on a
share a
sec.
shit
Stop.
ton.
Just a bug in your ear about not to forget the garbage in the.
Yeah, I know about that. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, like you share common, essentially anything that has DNA. If I understand correctly, if you go back far enough, you have some kind of a common ancestor. Because DNA is a thing, unless they're like two different things that developed DNA out of the same chemicals at the same approximate time. Probably not the case, right? So some fucking
I can trace
amoeba
my
or
ancestry.
whatever.
I can trace my ancestry back to a pre-protoplasmic subatomic globule.
Yeah.
Which is from, I can't remember what book. But here's the interesting thing. So, talking about space and shit now. Segway song, the Segway song's a bit too long. We're looking for life on Mars. I don't know if we're going to find it. We're going to be looking for life on Enceladus and some other places. Maybe we'll find it. Maybe we won't. There's ice on the moon. There's ice on Mercury. Who knows? Blah, blah, blah. When we find this stuff, and eventually I think we will, what I want to know is, does it have the same kind of DNA that works in the same way? Because if it does, then it's possible that all of these animals went through a diaspora through the planets via meteoric bombardment. So let's say it evolved on Earth, and 6 billion years ago or 3 billion years ago, and then we had huge meteors hit the ground and splashed this shit out, and it landed on Mars and turned into grass. So then the DNA would be the same, and that would be a disappointment for me. What I want to see is some kind of minor difference in the DNA. So instead of 4 chemical links, maybe there'll be 3, or 1 chemical link will be very slightly different. And to me, that would be pretty awesome to find out, because then we know that life evolves in different places at different times all the time, because it happened twice in our solar system.
Yes.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, and that's why I hate like the whole panspermia thing. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know the science enough to actually hate it, but I feel like it's a cop out. I
don't know if it's a cop out or not. What we need is data.
Yes.
So that's why they're looking so hard on Mars, because that's kind of the easiest data point. Is it the best one? Possibly not. We don't know yet. But it's the easiest one. We can actually get there. Mars is the only planet that we know of that's entirely populated by robots.
And it needs girls.
Yes. Yeah. In a bad way.
Which works out because Earth girls are easy.
Yes.
Not 1, but 2 science fiction movie references from the 80s. Or 90s or whatever.
Yeah, who cares?
Sorry. I did not mean to derail you. Yeah, no.
Yeah, you
Mars. No, it comes naturally.
We have a machine at work that plots out stuff, and it's an old plotter, and all the bearings are worn out. And so it goes clunkety, rattly, bang. And I always say, I always wondered what it sounded like when two robots fucked.
Can you feel the love tonight?
Beep, beep, beep.
Yep.
Okay.
McDuck Matrix, baby.
We got it. Alrighty, so I'm freezing and I'm tired. So
Okay.
I think I'd like to wrap up.
Okay. Do you want to wait? Do you want to wait this long?
Of course.
Okay. It's okay if you don't want to wait that long. I can put my cigarette down and run inside.
Yeah, no, that's. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Another minute doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I love you, dude, and I miss like even during the brief between lockdowns periods where we got to, go for dinner occasionally and play music together and shit. Like I miss the fuck out of that, and I can't wait for the next phase of this where we can actually like be in the same room again.
Yeah, well, they opened up the restaurants and bars, and some people are saying, "Okay, let's play," but I'm not sure if that's smart.
I'm not ready for that. I'm legit. I'm a cautious person. I don't want to, especially with like I've got people in my life who I care very deeply about who are immunocompromised, and I don't want to risk their lives.
Absolutely,
Funny
and that's the right way to look at it. This virus is mutating. We have evidence of a handful of them. That I guarantee you there's dozens, because there's another one. There's another one. We have to be looking at it with the right equipment to see that, and we're too busy not doing that to do it. So it could very, very easily mutate into something that is essentially infinitely virulent, and like smallpox, one of the more virulent viruses we know. And that would kind of be the end of a lot of people.
Yep.
It would change everything. So do we really want to play with that? Do we really want to play this game? Is that worth a beer? Is that worth a beer to you?
That's the whole problem I have with this is like there's a certain amount of risk I'm willing to take. Like we all make and make risk decisions based on whatever we know and stuff, and like I get that, but there is always the risk that something more awful, like COVID, is bad, but it's not like the worst kind of bad ever.
Yeah,
it's not Ebola, but the right mutation could make that fucker pretty goddamn awful.
Yeah,
and it's already like, it's already pretty shitty. Like when you look at the things like the related issues that people are having. So not the immediate, like I can't breathe.
Yeah, the long-termers. Yeah.
Long-term shit, like ain't cool.
Not cool. It's very, we're not used to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the thing that's interesting is this doesn't work well. It doesn't play well with the way we do economies.
Yeah.
So this could be our first trip into a very different kind of economic universe. And to be honest with you, I'd very, very welcome that.
Yep, I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah. So do you have outro music that you play?
I don't, but I'm going to fade to the end thinger, is what I called it on here. We will fade to the end thinger. Thank you so much, my brother. I love you. I miss you. And I can't wait to hang out with you again.
Yeah. You make life brighter. Love you lots, and we'll see you soon.
Life better. Love you too, brother. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.